You're listening to UNITEDWESTRIKE.com radio. Don't buy, don't comply. Ask why. UNITEDWESTRIKE.com radio.
Hi, welcome back to Under the Weather with Cindy Pakulis and Bonnie Hogue. And we have just spoken with Michael Murphy of the documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying? And we advise everyone to go out and purchase it and spread the news about the aerosol program taking place in the sky. Hi, Bonnie. Welcome back.
Hi, and actually not only in the sky, come to think of it, but everywhere because it all falls out.
Absolutely. Isn't there a nursery rhyme?
Sometimes some people think the sky is so far away. How could it have anything to do with me? I mean, what is happening with our science classes in school that people think this is not a closed system?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
either.
I don't know. And they see, I think, a lot of it has to do with the way they're being taught in school. And also, as you know, with the media, everything all over the media is in tiny little snippets. Well, we have genetically modified salmon. Okay, what's up next? So nobody really gets a chance to, think any past it, and they stay with that thought, and then it's gone.
Well, you remind me that the USDA and the ones who decide about whether we can have genetically modified food, it's the Food and Drug Administration, right? The FDA.
Right.
I'm reminded that the U.S. Department of Agriculture was there at the inception of the studies that were done at Plum Island at the end of your dear island, Long Island. I was interested to read in Michael Carroll's book, Lab 257, that they were there at the get-go, or at least at the get-go after World War II. And I bet most of our listeners don't know that there was this major importation of Nazi scientists who never went through any kind of Nuremberg or other kind of trial. They kind of got amnesty by bringing their science, which is that Mengele kind of science, to this country, and out of it came some of these types of warfare, one of them entomological, one of them leading to things like Lyme disease, or so-called Lyme disease. So when I think about the FDA protecting us, or the USDA protecting us, I don't think so. I don't feel protected, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. And the program that you're talking about with the scientists was not just the Nazi scientists. It was also the scientists from Japan who knew quite a bit also. They actually were pretty much, I believe, in the lead. It was called Project Paperclip. I never found out why it was called Project Paperclip. That would be interesting to research why they named it that. But yes, they were. And actually the military was in the Department of Agriculture was there at Plum Island, but it was the military that were really in control over Plum Island in the early days. And it was their security force that guarded it. And I know the other book, I'm drawing a blank, but it'll come back to me. But he talks about how once the military left, that's when the security at Plum Island, that's when a lot of the accidents happened, because they didn't have the patrols that they had when the military was there.
You're talking about Kenneth King's book?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, Germs Gone Wild, Kenneth King.
Germs Gone Wild, that's it. Exactly.
What a silly name for something so disturbing. You know what I want to do before we go much farther with Under the Weather, our program, Cindy's and Bonnie's, got together? I want to say thank you to Karen Tostado for creating this opportunity for so many of us all around the world, and I really want to say hello to all the people listening all the way around this beautiful blue marble, as they say. To thank Karen for really being the mastermind, as far as I know. I know there are others involved as well. But the idea of, peaceful non-compliance, United We Strike. We say we just are not going to play the game anymore. And I really want to applaud her for her vision and for creating this opportunity. I know you feel that way too.
Absolutely. She is tireless in promoting this. And I know that one of the things that United We Strike is really reaching for is April 15th, 16th, and 17th to just like you said, not buy, don't help out the powers that be by contributing and stay home and just do whatever we can not to be part of their system. I'd also like to, if I can for a second, send out a personal thank you to Rick Morgett, who had a show earlier that was fantastic, because without him, Long Island Skywatch would have stayed a dream in my head. So he is also, the two of them, tireless. It's great to know them, and thank you so much for letting us be part of this.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
And also we should maybe let people know that Rosalind Peterson is going to be on in the next time slot at the next hour. Her program she's calling Skywatch, News, Weather, and Views. And maybe this is a moment to also say that the Bonfire Coalition has its website nestled within her website, which is www.californiaskywatch.com. She also has www.agriculturedefensecoalition.org. And I haven't said this before, but if people listening to our voices want to get involved and want to communicate with us and be a part of bringing this awareness to other human beings, the Bonfire Coalition's email address, I'm just going to spell it out, and you may have one you want to give too. Bonfire, BONNE_FIRE @yahoo.com. Again, BONNE_FIRE @yahoo.com. People want to communicate, it would be great if they wrote in the subject line, United We Strike, and then I would know that they had been listening to us today. How about you? How would you like people to contact you?
People can just contact me at CINDY@LongIslandSkywatch.com. And also, as I was talking about Rick earlier, I think it's important that people know that he is also producing this amazing show. And also he has www, I think it's voteforit.com, where he's out of...
What is it again?
www.voteforit.com, okay. And I'm hoping it's a .com. But it's an amazing site, and I kind of steal some of his stuff too, because he's got some great videos, and it's affecting all of us. Everything that's going on in all the countries around the world, as we all know, is run by a very select few, and everything that's being done to one is being done to all, in addition to, the aerosol program.
Yeah, but you know what? You just thanked him for producing this great show.
Uh-huh. Oh!
And we think it is.
Yes, we do. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, we're having a great time. Let's see now. We thought maybe we should let people know how we came to be doing what we're doing in the world. So how did you get here from there, my dear?
Well, I kind of have to thank my husband for that. He was at 9/11. He was an eyewitness, so he kind of went through his own transformation or epiphany back then. And, of course, we were still somewhat brainwashed, and we thought we kind of fell in the Democratic camp, and we thought it was all the Republicans and it was the administration, because we were very, for nature, for the environment and the whole thing. And that's why when I start getting upset that people don't hear me, as progressive as I thought I was, I realized how I really didn't know what was going on. And he came across the word chemtrails at that point, but he was so focused on 9/11 that he just, went past it. And then it was one day, like last February, it's been about a year, that he was looking at the sky and he saw the crisscrosses and saw the whole sky being whitened and hazed over. And the next day we actually had massive flooding here on the island, record-breaking. And my son, I took off from work because my son woke up with strep throat once again, and we definitely have to do a show on the illnesses. And he showed it to me, and I was like, you've got to be kidding. And then I went on a massive research and found you.
Oh my.
I sent out feelers to everyone, and that's where our wonderful relationship started. And then I believe it was, April or May, that the Gulf hit, and that just devastated me. Absolutely devastated me. And I did a whole bunch of research that so many people had done before me. I just kind of organized it for me, called Connect the Dots, and it's on my website, and it pulls in the corporations involved, which you were a great part of, Bonnie, because you sent it globally, and it's been a real party ever since. You go.
Well, I am so glad that you came into my life. I feel like we're getting married. I am so glad you came into my life, because although you are those many, many, many miles away from me, and it is quite a hike between our houses, just to know that I can call you, and I feel that with the very few people actually globally who get this in the way that I get this, which is at times so painful, that if you don't talk to somebody who understands it, or I should say feels it with the same kind of, existential angst or whatever, just a sense of devastation, it's very, very lonely to see this and to know that it is so wrong, and then in your community to feel ostracized. And I know Michael Murphy doesn't seem to be ostracized in his, but certainly you and I have suffered that, trying to bring it to the attention of our communities. But I had my tsunami of the brain, as I like to call it, or my epiphany, as Jeff Brady calls it, February, about a year before you did, February of 2008, and my honey, like your honey, called me out and said, Bonnie, look at the sky. Well, the sun was rising in the east. It was February, so it was pretty far in the south, and we have a wide open sky where I live. And I saw the plaid, as somebody called it, the cross-hatching, the grid, and there was, seems like ceaseless laying down of lines and lines and lines, and over the course of 40 minutes, the sun was occluded. It was dimmed. I totally freaked. Oddly, I had been photographing these pluming jet trails for years, but hadn't crossed the line. And I think maybe we should talk about that moment when, as a human being, you go from saying, oh gosh, there's a lot of air traffic, or gee, that's interesting, to say, what is that?
Right.
That moment that I think a lot of people actually, they have trouble crossing that threshold. I know I did. I took my drum and went out in the woods and talked to the trees, and I just said, this is way beyond me. This is devastation. And of course, now the more we learn, the more we understand just how devastating it is, and apparently how devastating it is intended to be, which is even more painful to our souls, especially those of us who really love the beauty of this planet. So how was it that day for you? I know you started to say that Jim brought you out and said, look at this, but what happened for you emotionally?
It's funny because because we don't, our whole lives have changed, as I know yours has, and our first initial reaction, it was like a surge of energy. And it's crazy to look at it like that, but it kind of answered all the questions that I had about so many things for so long. Like, you grow up and I've always been very involved with the environment, and I eat organic, and I teach the kids at school about pesticides and how to stay healthy and corporations and things like that. And I could never get why they allowed this to continue to happen once they knew the consequences, what was happening. And so many things were finally answered that it kind of took away what I feel now, which is, we talk about this a lot, the intense sadness, the anger, the rage. At first it was like, oh my God, I got it. We got it. We have to tell everybody. We can fix this. So that we did. My husband was going to malls, standing in the street, handing out every flyer we could find online. I went to school. I just expected this troop of teachers to come with me and fight this. And maybe that, I don't know which was worse for me, dealing with nah, really? Oh my God. And then the eyes cloud over, and then I've lost them, and then they kind of avoid me now because it's like, oh, is she going to ask me for something? But like Michael said, you have those who wake up and it makes it worthwhile, and they get on board, and you chug along. So, that's still with me, and it's a day-to-day battle. It really, a lot of it depends on the condition of the sky, as you well know. I mean, if I see a blue sky, I never forget, but I don't know. It lifts my spirits a little bit, but.
Well, it's interesting that you were initially energized by a kind of a crystallization. I can't say that that's what happened for me. When you say people's eyes cloud over, I'm thinking, oh, maybe they have an aerosol program in their brains. It's got the haze is coming in. But I immediately called my legislators, and one of my local, this is a state legislator, state senator, she actually called my town supervisor, who happens to be a friend of mine here in eastern New York State. Somebody from her office called him to see if I was mentally balanced. Yeah. And I called Kirsten Gillibrand.
Oh, well, I'm going to go up and talk to her.
Oh, really, it's demoralizing because, first of all, I didn't know what was happening. I thought maybe it was the obligation of those who represent me to get this information for me, because I don't know what it is, and they chose to think that I was crazy instead of trying to help me. And I'm sure that's what happens to, I know it is, many, many people who try to bring this to the awareness of their legislators. And, of course, you know what happened. Maybe another time we'll tell the story of Kirsten Gillibrand and her family's relationship with British Aerospace. That's a very interesting story that actually people can get that a little bit from your Connect the Dots.
Right. Right.
Again, I know that's on the Bonfire Coalition website.
And it's on your, I'm sorry, Bonnie, go ahead.
Well, I know that it's on the Bonfire Coalition website, which again is embedded in Rosalind Peterson's CaliforniaSkywatch.com website, so people can get it there, click on it. It's in the PDF form, I think. But you also have it on your new website, right?
Right, under Aerosol Program.
And
there's one of the. Also, I just want to say that they can
Long Island Skywatch.
Long Island Skywatch, and they can link to your website from my website, and there's also a lot of the pictures and photos of the slides that you took on my website.
That. But before we get to that,
yeah,
I want to say it's so funny we're all talking about all our websites and all these ways of communicating, and I think it's really important to remind ourselves and other people that the whole communication system that we are relying on is actually the spawn of DARPA, which means it really belongs to the military, at least in this country. And, of course, I think the military in this country is controlling the military in a lot of places in the world. It's really important to remember that this could be snatched away from us in a moment.
And they're working on it.
And are they?
Yeah.
Do you really think so? Do you have evidence of that?
Well, I know that there's 2 bills right now in Congress.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. And one is from our boy Rockefeller, and that was put back for a rewrite, but Lieberman, and I know actually another one was recently put forward. But I'm also noticing when you go onto YouTube to look at some videos that have to do with issues that we'll be talking a lot about, and that this United We Strike and everyone is concerned about, a lot of them are being scrambled now.
What does that mean?
That means that you can't see the video. It's streamed, it comes in, it goes out. And like when you were a kid and the lines would go through the TV if you went to a station that, you couldn't get or something,
yes.
But you can't see the videos. And, of course, the only thing that I don't watch mainstream TV either, as I don't think anybody does.
My dear.
Well, you know what I mean. Any of us.
Oh, I wish they didn't.
I know. But when I'm looking at things on the Internet now, sometimes I can't get to things that I want to see. So I think they're starting to work very hard, because I do think a lot more people are waking up.
Do you have the information about the bills right near you, or should we talk about that another week?
I don't have it right near me, no.
But it's important for people to know that there are bills that are cyber kill bills. One of them, about a year ago, was giving the president the privilege, I guess you could say, and by president I think we mean the military, that's just my guess, the privilege of shutting down any kind of internet, like the Bonfire Coalition, for instance, or anything that they thought might be a threat to Homeland Security. or to the...
That was the Rockefeller bill.
Okay, and Lieberman was signed on to that too?
Yeah, a lot of people obviously protested that. So Joe Lieberman came out with a bill that would it wouldn't per se give the president the ability to shut down the internet cold. What it would give him the ability would be to shut down the 10 or 15 host servers, such as Verizon, Cable, Opt Online, in the event of what he deemed a terrorist attack. So as the majority of people who are on the internet utilize one of these services, it's the same thing.
And don't forget, Cindy, we are the terrorists.
Yes. Yes.
Not in our point of view, of course.
No.
Which reminds me, we've created, the Bonfire Coalition has created, well, I think it's a charming poster for Homeland Security. If anybody would like a copy of it, I'll just tell them what it says, if I may. You know the one I mean? It's a picture of a grid, pluming jet trails, what we're talking about on a regular basis, the aerosol program that is trying to do us in. And at the top, so there's a photograph of a beautiful grid. Well, can we really call them beautiful? And it says for Homeland Security, ... And then under the photo, it says expose terrorist activities. And then it says the Bonfire Coalition agrees. If you see something, say something. Of course, what we're trying to do is to feed off of the Janet Napolitano, if you see something, say something for Homeland Security, that slogan. And of course, they're not suggesting that we should be saying anything about the aerosol program, but that's what our poster is about. So, yeah.
Bonnie, when you bring that up, it just relayed something to me, because when my husband and I first found out, we were, like you, calling everybody. And one night I was driving my son to soccer practice, and they, of course, were just going crazy in the sky. So I called the FDA. And no, I called aviation, Federal Aviation, FAA, right. And I had got a gentleman on the phone, and I explained that I was very concerned. There were planes crisscrossing in the sky above us. They were flying very close to each other. They were leaving these trails that were pluming out, and I was concerned what was in them. And I know that as a citizen, I'm supposed to call since 9/11. And the gentleman was very nice, and he said, well, I know they're doing something in New York City. And I said, well, that's not relevant to me. I'm 2 hours away from New York City. So he said, well, I'll check into it. And he was about to hang up the phone. And I said, well, can I have your name and number? Because I would like to call you back, as my son is going to be playing over underneath these trails. So he ended up calling my husband back, I gave him my house phone. And my husband got on the phone with him and was talking to him. And he said, isn't it your job to check this out? Because he was referring him now to the Department of Homeland Security. And he said, but there's something going on in the sky, and wasn't it supposedly something that happened in the sky that took down the Trade Center? And the gentleman finally said, listen, mister, I get phone calls like this every day, and there is nothing I can do about it. I can't pass you on. All I can do is tell you that if you're concerned, you need to call the Department of Homeland Security. And my husband just said,
and then you'll be taken away.
And then you'll be taken away. That's another song, isn't it? Take me back.
You mean up and away?
We can only hope that people in situations of power really wake up and realize that this is happening to them also, and, come out and do something about it.
Well,
Calgon, take it away, Karen just told me.
What?
Karen just wrote me that it's Calgon, take me away, that commercial.
Oh, yeah. But, I was thinking of Up and Away in a Beautiful Balloon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Calgon. I wonder what they're investing in these days. Oops, careful. Don't want to slander. No libel, no slander. Oh, dear. I guess I lost my brain there for a moment. Fear. Yeah. So, one of the main things that we find comes blooming out of people, including ourselves, or at least myself, when I'm talking to them about and I'm very intense, I must admit. It's just really, I'm a bonfire, what can I say? And the fear that we all have to cope with and grapple grapple with as we come into this kind of awareness. I've kind of decided that we're not really going to stop the aerosol program, but that awareness itself is a powerful, powerful experience for human beings. And most of us are denying ourselves awareness. And I know you've used the term awake, and that kind of confuses me. But for me, just this awareness is so terrifying at first that many people, or maybe they're under the influence of the high frequency active auroral research project. Maybe extremely low frequency radio waves are calming them to the point that they're just totally unavailable. But I just watch how people try to receive the information sometimes and they just can't. So can we talk a little bit about fear and all of this, and how we're working with our own fear?
Absolutely, and that's aside from the program itself, as we've spoken many times, that is the hardest part for me, because I know, like you said about HAARP, and I know about fluoride. It pretty much melts your brain, and processed food and the vaccination, everything. I mean, it really is in a diabolical way brilliant, but we were still able to step out of it, and that's the hardest thing when I tell people that they don't respond the way that I think that most people should respond. And fear, I guess maybe it's fear, but I sometimes feel like I don't even get to the fear.
Really?
It's just, I don't know. I mean, some people I do. I told actually my girlfriend from childhood, and her husband, she told me afterwards, said, "Don't look at the sky. You'll panic." And I don't understand that.
There's a remedy.
Because, I panic when I look at the sky. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that for me, I mean, fear, I like we've done a lot of talking about this. I'm fearful of what it will do to the planet, to my children, to me. But I'm angry. It makes me angry, and it makes me want to fight, and I don't understand how, and I don't mean fight. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I do want to rip those planes out of the sky, but stand up to them. And I truly believe that if we all became aware, awake, it would just go away. But I guess I'm fearful that we all won't. That's probably, in addition, where my fear lies, that we're not going to be able to wake everyone up. But I woke up, and I think I was always half awake. So, I think I'm rambling here, am I?
No, well, not from my point of view. But then you and I tend to ramble together, rambling on. And I probably should mention right here that people are listening to Under the Weather with Cindy Pikulis and Bonnie Hoeg, and this is our debut on the United We Strike Network radio network, and we're delighted to be here. And maybe it'd be nice to thank Karen again for making this possible for us to get our voices out all around the world. And I'm hoping that if people are listening to us, that they let other people know. We probably will be on in a different time slot in the future, but I know that the schedule will be posted on United We Strike, and the website rather for United We Strike. And by the way, that strike has to do with peaceful non-compliance. It's not striking like an airstrike or a surgical strike. It's a peaceful non-compliance kind of strike, which I certainly can get behind. So,
absolutely.
Just
and I just
to know people.
Go ahead. And I also just wanted to go ahead.
I have nothing further to say at this moment. Take over.
Oh, I doubt that.
Yeah, really. I can quiet myself.
I also wanted to say that Rick, our amazing producer, also has a wonderful website, acasefortreason.org, and that gives an awful lot of information also. And there is on my website, but I want to give credit, a gentleman, David, who is a United We Strike member, and he's doing a wonderful job also on his website, www.endtheparty.org. He has an awesome picture of a contrail versus a persistent jet contrail, because I know there's a lot of confusion, especially, I mean, one time this summer I was at the beach talking to a family who were extremely upset about, because wherever you go, you can't help it. You just blah, blah, blah. And they were extremely upset about what was happening to the world, and I pointed out what was the trails currently taking place above us in the sky. And the woman who I was speaking to was a retired teacher, and she looked at the sky, and it had to be 7 lines and crisscrosses. And I said, well, you know, those aren't real clouds. And she goes, oh, sure they are. I've been seeing them all my life. I said, no, you haven't. I said, they're not.
Like 10 years old?
Exactly.
How old are you?
Exactly. And she just looked at me. She goes, oh, my God, I have to go home and Google. I said, please. I said, and you have a very big family. Have them Google, too. But it's amazing. So many people think that what they're seeing in the sky is normal.
Yes, and there's nothing in the media apart from this kind of programming that is going to reveal it. I mean, if you try to get, and this is the other frustration to me after trying to get my legislators to tell me what is going on. And by the way, several of us went to the New York State Attorney General's office to try to get the environmental lawyers to take a look at what is falling on the people of New York State, and they opted not to take on this issue. But I also went to the media and said, this isn't right, and I would do letters and I would do articles, and of course I was trying to invite people to come to programs, and Rosalind Peterson was in the East fall, and she came and did some programs here, but it was striking to me how little coverage there was and how little their interest there was. And it was one of those terribly bleak moments when I realized that the media that people depend on does not belong to the people. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't know if I can actually name networks, so I won't do that right now, but one of the ones that is relied on the most by people who consider themselves to be liberals is one of the ones that is most failing us. I mean, a lot of people who think the reactionary networks are problematic, they have no idea how they're being deceived, mostly by omission.
Absolutely.
The networks that profess to be, full of important information to keep you. It makes me so mad.
Oh, and it should, because, I mean, let's face it, this is our air. This is everything that lives on this planet. It's the air, and it goes into the water. There is nothing that supersedes this. And by omission, then you're guilty. And you're absolutely right. And it's funny because every now and then, especially when we have a huge blizzard coming, which seems to be almost weekly now, we'll just turn on the TV to see what they're saying about it. I like to look where it's coming from because they have all these newfangled storms now. You know, it's a meeting of the storms in the middle of the country and things like that. And it's absolutely horrifying that every single newscaster has the trails behind them. Dark trails, it's a dark blue background, and there's trails going through, whether they're light blue, dark blue, and it's in media. I just received something from Chase Bank. Oh, I probably shouldn't mention a bank. And right behind it, it's all the trails and all those crazy man-made clouds. It is in the media. We are inundated with it. Children growing up now in the last 10 to 15 years, they think it's normal. Everywhere you look. Yeah. You know, so it's, I mean, our struggle is, tenfold because of this.
You told me that you now know that your weather is actually coming from your local airport. Do you want to tell that story?
Well, it's really, you're talking about my student?
Yes.
Yeah, this is actually, it's talk about synchronicity. My daughter came home 2 days ago, one of her friends at school. She has a little 12-year-old lunch clutch. And they were talking about, what their moms and dads did for a living. And one of the little girls mentioned that her dad works at an airport close by me, Farmingdale. And my daughter said, and my children, of course, are aware of this. And my daughter said, well, what does he do? And she goes, I don't know. It's top secret. So my daughter sat with that for a few minutes. And then she said, well, what does he... Yeah, I know I can't ask you, it's top secret, but what does he work with? She goes, I don't know, he does something with the planes. So my daughter came home extremely upset because she really likes this little girl. And, of course, it has nothing to do with the child. And then yesterday, I'm actually giving my students a final where they have to investigate and write a summary either about geoengineering or HARP. And I gave a little background knowledge on geoengineering, and one of my students piped up and said, oh, yeah, my uncle works at Farmingdale Airport. And I said, for the military? And a couple of students, because it's a school trip, all the kids on the majority of them take a trip to the airport. So there's no military there. And my other student and I just continued the conversation a little bit. I said, for the military? And he said, yeah. And when my other student, I was getting a little confusing maybe, but there's no military there. Michael, who was telling the story, said, yes, there is. It's in the back and it's hidden. And I said, what does he do there? He goes, well, I know there's something with the planes, and he has to wear an orange, he has to take his clothes off, put an orange suit on with a big badge on it, a big tag, something, walk inside, and then when he leaves, he has to take the suit off and come out, but he won't tell us anything else he has to do. And told him that he definitely had to do the investigation of geoengineering. But yeah, so it's, which concerns me, and it shouldn't, because I guess that's my naivete. Obviously, whoever's flying the planes over here have to live on the island. You know, they always like to think that the people who do things like that are nowhere around you. But
yeah, and not human.
And not human. Yes. And
no, Cindy, I have to tell you, your voice is breaking up for me. I don't know if it is for people who might be listening to you. Is my voice breaking up? Cindy?
No, you're coming through fine. No, we just...
Did we lose her?
Yeah, that's okay. We're just going to get her back now.
Okay. Well, Cindy Bonny of Under the Weather, our program that's debuting today over United We Strike, the radio web program, and we lost Cindy there for a moment. Hopefully it wasn't anything she was saying.
Hi, Bonnie, I'm back. My voice did break up.
Yeah, you did. I thought maybe they had brought in the hook, you know, get you out of here.
I guess I thought
you told too many secrets. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay now?
It's still a little bit breaking up, but I can so far.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are our neighbors, and some of our neighbors, I guess, are actually attending to the planes, putting the chemicals in the planes, and flying the planes. And I know you said that over your son said one day as he was walking into school, he actually had a kind of a chemical taste that he had, and I know you talk about seeing brown clouds kind of falling out of the sky, and it seems as though the activity over Long Island is somehow more intimate than what we're getting here, at least so far.
I think so, because quite often there's low-flying planes and there's dark trails behind them.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
So, yeah, and I don't know. Sometimes I think that Long Island is getting hit quite a bit. But then if I take a drive, I see every place else getting, you know.
Yeah, it's not fun anywhere these days. Although I suppose if they were trying, if it were an attempt to eliminate population, Long Island and New York City would be a great place to hit.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too.
You know, people say, well, why would they want to hurt themselves? And now when people say that to me, I say, you know what, there are certain questions that are no longer pertinent. I mean, that's a very natural question for someone to ask after we do a program called, what do we call our program? Oh my gosh.
Who owns the weather?
Thank you. That's tragic.
You're welcome.
Who owns the weather? And invariably people will say, well, wait a minute, now that you've told us all of this, don't the people who are perpetrating this also know that they're being sickened and that their food is being injured, their water is being injured? And
Bonnie?
what I now say when people say that is that's a... Hello?
Sorry to jump in here. Yeah, Bonnie, we'd like to call you back. You're breaking up as well, so maybe then you're in the weather in your area so that you can't hear the rest of this. Absolutely.
How ironic. Shall I hang up?
You would, yeah, please, and we'll get right back to you. Cindy, are you still there?
I am. Am I breaking up still?
A little bit, yeah. Well, how's mine sounding?
You're breaking up too.
Yeah, you're breaking up as well there, Karen. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
I think maybe we might be having a little. Maybe our conversation is taking a turn.
Shall we cut to a quick...
Maybe some music, Rick, and see what happens through that and connect everybody, okay? All right.
You're listening to UNITEDWESTRIKE.com radio. Don't buy, don't comply. Ask why. UNITEDWESTRIKE.com radio.
Hello. This is an invitation to everyone who hears this message. We are calling on people of the world, all the people of every nation, to stand with us and join us in massive, peaceful non-compliance April 15th, 16th, and 17th. That's Friday, April 15th, the Saturday and Sunday following. Our intention is a global, massive strike of peaceful non-compliance. Folks, if you are tired of being lied to, having your money stolen, losing your homes, watching your food be poisoned, looking at the geoengineering in the sky, wondering what those clouds really are that are dropping on us, if you're tired of looking at the Gulf of Mexico and the massive death and destruction there, if you're tired of being run by corporations, if you've had it with a system that has sold you out and made you a commodity on the debt owed by governments, if you're tired of watching bankers walk away with billion-dollar bonuses at our expense, if you feel that you have the right to life, liberty, property, freedom, and happiness, and that your children also have that right, and the right to think for themselves, and freedom of speech, then join us, folks. Our planet is being destroyed every day by military madness, and they've trained us to go to work and be taxed for it. We pay for the bombs. We pay for the depleted uranium. We pay for the Navy Air Force games bombing off of the oceans in the Pacific. We pay for the destruction, and they have kept it this way for generations. It is time for a new paradigm. War is not the answer. We have much more in common with each other than the bankers in the background. Follow the money. Do your own research. And understand that every day we go to work, as usual, we send a message of compliance. Silence is compliance, folks. The 15th of every month. Don't buy anything from corporations. Don't comply by keeping any more of your money in the system than you need for your monthly management and your bills. And ask why. Pick up that phone and call your misrepresentatives and tell them you support the people. You support United We Strike. They will be held accountable and help us grow for a massive strike of peaceful noncompliance all around the world. Imagine now, folks, the power of empty airports, empty streets, empty banks, empty schools. We, the people, will be heard. If you've had enough, if you understand that the time for freedom to be passed down to you without your direct participation has passed, if you know that it's time to become the hero of your own life, rise to the occasion, folks. Stand with us. We are building for this strike, April 15th, 2011. Be part of the change. Be part of the solution. Power to the people through peaceful unity. Thank you very much. Please share this far and wide. I sing a song of freedom. I sing a song of peace. We create what we see. It is time to be free.